Hello everyone, welcome to Deep Dive. I'm so glad that you're here. This past Sunday, I was speaking about one of the things I love most about Jesus, how Jesus is so intentionally available to people. And I was speaking out of the story from John chapter 4, where Jesus has a really meaningful conversation with the Samaritan woman at the well. And not only does his availability to her and his presence with her in that conversation transform her life, but as she goes and gives testimony of her interaction with Jesus, many more come to meet Jesus and have their lives transformed by him. We see Jesus in this beautiful story and also all throughout the Gospels give his time and attention to people in a really purposeful and unhurried way. And I just love this about Jesus. We talked this past Sunday about how Jesus relied on the Holy Spirit to lead him. It's the Holy Spirit who led him to this woman at the well. We talked about how Jesus relied on the Holy Spirit to fill him, to actually meet Jesus in his own need, so that the Holy Spirit could work through Jesus to meet the needs of this woman. And we spoke about how Jesus relied on the Holy Spirit to partner with him, actually for God to be present with him, so that this interaction with the woman at the well could go beneath the surface in her life and meet her at a deeper place, a place where she would know that God sees her and knows her and loves her directly in real time. And we know that we're called to be intentionally available to people as well, just as Jesus is. And as I think about this, there's one thing that has come to my heart that I didn't speak about at all this past Sunday, and I would like to share it with you now, because I think this little bit of help, of information, can aid us as we seek to become more intentionally available to people in an unhurried way. So a number of years ago, I was a part of a leadership development program called the Arrow Leadership Program. And one of our presenters, during one of his talks, he was talking about how we can share our lives with people, share our stories, be present to share the love of Jesus. And he spoke about how so often, when we think about being available to people, we can immediately think about where we want it to ultimately end up. But that can put a lot of pressure on one moment. So sometimes we can begin thinking that, wow, to be present the way Jesus was, by the end of one conversation, we should be best friends. I should know so much about this person's life. They should know so much about mine. And we can become overwhelmed by the bigness of it, that we can actually respond by doing nothing, because we feel somewhat paralyzed in the bigness of what we immediately take on when we think about being intentionally available to people. And this presenter said, instead of getting overwhelmed, he gave this one tip. He said, why not think about it through the lens of being 10% more friendly? Just 10% more friendly. So as he began to unpack this, I started to think about it this way in my life. So if I'm already living on my street and I'm out for a walk and see some neighbors out in their front yards, what would normal friendly Lisa look like? Well, it would look like me pausing and saying hello, maybe exchanging a few kind thoughts and then moving on my way. But 10% more friendly me would pause a little bit longer, would maybe ask one question or two more questions and just see what God does. Just see what the Holy Spirit opens up before I go on my way. I think about it often when my kids were younger and in school. What would being 10% more friendly look like when I was speaking with parents at drop-off or pickup? And usually it's just like one extra thing, just lingering for one or two more moments, asking one or two more questions, sharing a little bit more deeply when a question is asked of us than we maybe normally would have, but just staying that extra 10% and just then allowing the Holy Spirit to move, allowing him to prompt the conversation forward or not, as he desires. So my encouragement to you, I know if you're here watching Deep Dive, it's because you do want to go deeper, you do want to take an extra step. And so what would 10% more friendly look like for you as you think about being more intentionally available to people in your neighborhood at your workplace, on your sports team. Maybe it's just while you're running errands in the grocery store. What would being 10% more friendly look like? And this is something we can ask the Holy Spirit to help us with when we're in a moment with someone. Holy Spirit, what does 10% more friendly look like for me right now? And trust me, He will help you. Just as we see in John chapter 4, He ministered through Jesus and helped Jesus be present in an unhurried way that changed this woman's life. The simple things are the things so often that God uses to open up another conversation and another and another and another. Because so often people don't come to know Jesus through one interaction with one person. They come to know Jesus meaningfully through multiple interactions with multiple people. So what's the 10% Jesus is calling you to? So we want to keep the conversation going. So I invite you just to comment, what could 10% more friendly look like for you in the different spheres of relationship that Jesus has called you to, in the different places you find yourself where you live, learn, work, and play, that actually make living out the way of Jesus, practicing the way of Jesus, far more doable and possible. So thanks for being here. Let's keep the conversation going. I look forward to hearing what you have to say.